As we see the rise of electric cars and electric companies being preferred more and more over gas and oil field companies, we're starting to see how bad oil fields have impacted our families from an economical standpoint and an environmental standpoint. Oil fields are quickly dying out, and after 2 centuries, we're just now seeing the effects that it's had on our environment, being one of the main sources of air pollution and damaging biodiversity, according to wilderness.org. According to wilderness.org, over 1.3 million people live within the 1.2 million oil and gas facilities that are around the world, or not around the world, and around the United States. I'm sorry. This means that over the 1.2 million people that live around there, they have to breathe in the toxic chemicals that the oil fields are producing each day in and day out. Not only has this line of job plagued many communities by creating so much air pollution and not being able to breathe in the clean air, but they also have to worry about oil spills and oil booms and busts that from every day from their day-to-day lives. From an oil boom helping them be more financially stable, to an oil bust having them to worry about when their next meal is going to be. As someone who comes from a family that lived near out in Texas, this was one of our main sources of income. Everyone within the community really depended on oil as their number one source of income. But after moving out and seeing how bad it's affected our economy and our environment, I now see the negative effects that it's had within those two aspects of it. Oil fields are becoming obsolete. And as they do so, we're starting to see how badly these families will be after it becomes fully obsolete. According to the EIA, or the Energy Information Administration, states that have oil fields cause some of the worst pollutions within their own state, making it really uninhabitable for not only the environment, from animals, lakes, and rivers being able to prosper, to an economical standpoint when they have to rely on oil as their number one financial standpoint. One of the main reasons I'd like to get into it is because of how badly oil fields affect our biodiversity. According to an article published by Yale, it states that 2.1 million people in California live within half a mile of an oil or a gas well, making the environment much more worse for the surrounding areas. This meaning that there is a heavy lack of biodiversity within those 2.1 million people that live within the half a mile of an oil and gas well. Now, the reason why biodiversity is so important to the environment is because it is able to thrive and create and maintain the sustainable environment that it's provided, keeping the food chain alive and being able to sustain itself without no disruption. For example, and the disruption that this would be the oil fields that have horrible effects when they are drilled in, when they are created. Another citation I'd like to use is the oceanausa.org. Through offshore drilling, it greatly impacts the ocean biodiversity, having the species less and less common, killing off an entire food chain within the ocean itself, making it unsustainable for many habitats, for many animals that live within that habitat, or are being sustained through that habitat. And now to transition to my final point. To the people that live within these oil dependent states, these states will not be able to depend on oil as their number one source of income for that long. According to the New York Times article, jobless oil field workers, oil field companies are having to pay out their former employees because of the contract they signed, stating how many companies agreed to have oil field workers work for them for a certain amount of time, but because of the pandemic, this has not only gotten worse, but they have no field of job anymore, forcing the oil field companies to have to pay out their former employees for what they were promised, making making it a clear sign of the future, being that a lot of people won't be depending on oil anymore. As we saw a clear example in the pandemic, how the first few weeks of the pandemic, the city of Los Angeles has seen some of the cleanest air it's seen in decades. Not only can we see this as a clear sign that oil and food and that oil fields are really harmful to the environment, but also cities, making it one of when that happened, when the pollution was at this all-time low, is when a lot of people weren't moving, and surprisingly, that was when a lot of people weren't going out because of a whole pandemic that happened. To close this out, I'd like to conclude about how just for 2 centuries we've seen it all, from the oil crisis to oil booms to oil bust, and now we're seeing why it's becoming obsolete, and it will soon become a thing of the past. But nothing will ever change about how much it's affected us within an environmental aspect and a financial aspect. Not only should we feel for the people who needed the oil fields to be alive, or to try and stay alive or put food on the table, but we should strive for a sustainable energy source other than oil. Thank you.